Servus and hello guys, welcome back to another video of mine. Today we're watching why did so many Germans immigrate to the United States. My name is Tom, I'm a history student and political science student from Germany. I live in Bavaria, which you probably know. And I think this video is pretty interesting because I have some back knowledge. Because I know there's like different waves of immigrants to the United States. I mean, there's like the famous one, the big one, from 1815 to 2030. But I know that a lot of Germans actually came to the areas of, I'm not sure if Pennsylvania is right, but to this region because of the Independence War. I know that German troops have actually been deployed for the British, and actually they are coming from my hometown, Kassel, Kassel Hessia, where the troops are from, and I quite a few settled there, and that is one of the reasons why I think, or maybe it's Michigan or Wisconsin, I'm not sure, but this is the reason why there's like still a lot of German heritage there from these soldiers of the Independence War, but. That's basically all I know about the immigration to the US, and I hope I learned something now in the video. Without further ado, let's get started.
According to the United States Census Bureau, the largest ethnic group in the United States of America is German. In 2019, a whopping 43 million Americans
that's quite a lot.
as being of full
And
or
if I interpret the map right, and I don't know all the states, but I feel like here this is Wisconsin, there at the Great Lakes, and it's heavy blue, so it seems like there are a lot of Germans. And like I said, Pennsylvania looks also a bit. So I had some quite not wrong thoughts on that. But let's keep going.
Partial German ancestry, with Pennsylvania alone accounting for 3.5 million. So, there is no doubt that at some point in time, there were a lot of German immigrants crossing the Atlantic to reach America. But what exactly was the reason? What made so many Germans decide to leave all they'd ever known and owned behind to start?
I mean, Europe was pretty much packed up with people. There is not like much unowned land. And I feel like if I am living in the 1850s and I'm really poor, living in the city, and there's like the chance of this land abroad the ocean where people can go just into the nature and claim their land and find maybe gold and get rich. And this is what probably would get me to go to the US.
A new life in the United States of America. The first notable wave of German settlers in the American colonies came near the end of the 17th century when William Penn, the founder of Pennsylvania, invited religious outcasts from Germany to come and settle in his colony, many facing religious persecution back home.
And I feel like this is one of the I am not really familiar with the US history, but I feel like isn't that like one of the founding reasons for the colonies, like that a lot of people came from the religion wars in Europe and especially in England, and to live there, to go in exile and live their religion out. Am I right about that? Write it down in the comments.
Eagerly accepted the invitation. For the following decades, German immigration to the colony would steadily increase. For the most part, these settlers were emigrating from the more southwestern regions of Germany, such as Baden, Württemberg, Palatinate, and the Rhineland.
But to be honest, at this point, there's not really a Germany. There's like German-speaking people, and they are quite bigger than what is shown here, because German-speaking people include also the Austrians, and at this time, people from which is now Poland, but from Schlesien, which is on the east, upper east of Germany. And yeah, they were part of the Prussia and then later of the Reich, where we just saw a video about Prussia and the German Reich.
But they would not be the only Germans to make their way to Pennsylvania. By midway through the 1700s, these settlers had founded multiple cities, such as Germantown, Skibak, and Coniston.
That's a very creative name. I know there's I know there's Frankfurt somewhere there, maybe in Pennsylvania, I don't know. But I know there's some German cities 2.0.
Doga, upwards of 60.
Like most cities in America, like New York is just York 2.0, I guess, right?
5,000 Germans had only recently made their way to the welcoming colony by the 1770s. But unfortunately, the influx of German immigrants would drastically decrease as the colonies inched closer and closer to the Revolutionary War. Numerous of the tens of thousands of settlers had left Germany not just for religious freedom, but also to flee from the effects of the 30 Years' War and subsequent conflicts that plagued Germany. Seeing such a large-scale war then break out in the New World, the dream of a new, safe, and promising home was shattered for many. For those who had already arrived in the colonies, though, life was not horrible.
I mean, yeah, I think it's not a possibility to go back, and I think you don't want to go back, but you have to make the best of it. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why the US is such an has such economic, I don't know the word, I'm looking for the word, is success. Thank you. Oh my God. Has such success because they have only people who were brave enough to come to this country. So the society or the people are genetically, but they are people who came to the country and had to be brave. A lot of dopamine. I wrote a book about that, and people who survived about like all the problems they had there, like the wars, the nature, and that built a strong society, I think.
Though challenging, it seems that success in the New World was a true possibility for the hard-working immigrants. According to the Historical Society of Pennsylvania, the typical German immigrant was a poor farmer or artisan who arrived around 1750 with a wife and 2 children. They were most likely in debt for the passage across the Atlantic, but had family or friends already settled in America. They were affiliated with the Lutheran or Reformed Church, but only loosely committed
and I don't really understand the concepts of the churches in the US. I feel like in Germany we only have the Catholics, which are the Roman Church, and we have the in Germany we say it's Protestants, I think you say, but in Germany we say Evangelisten, evangelisch, and the Evangelic Church, and basically these two and nothing else. And I feel like the US have like 1,000 different churches.
An organized religion. Records indicate that they became prosperous members of the community. However, many were too poor to pay the transatlantic passage, so as many as 1/2 to 2/3 of German immigrants came to Pennsylvania as indentured servants or redemptioners, as Germans called them. These redemptioners were essentially contracted servants for generally between 2 to 7 years, who would be forced to work for a particular employer to make up for the debts they owed and had incurred from their trip to America. And by the time the German influx had slowed, there were already, according to some historians, nearly 75,000 Germans living in Pennsylvania, and many others had immigrated to the rest of the Pennsylvania, or would come later on. There had been an almost constant trickle of Germans entering the New World ever since the founding of Jamestown, and even some of the German Hessian soldiers that had been employed
that's what I know
during
from
the American Revolution decided to stay in the United States at the end of the war. During the early 1800s, more Germans had begun to make their way to America, though not in as large of waves due to famine back home. Others would come a few decades later due to the political strife in Germany, and during the 18th...
they tried to, there was like a phase of political, they tried to, of nationalist movement. So there, at this point, there wasn't a German state. There were only like Prussia and bigger kingdoms. Prussia, Bavaria, I think Baden-Württemberg was already a kingdom. I'm not sure about that, but people wanted to unite. They were like the Hambacher Fest, and they tried to form a German state. And there was like the Trite Revolution in March, and they had like a parliament, but the king declined the crown from them, and so it all fell apart. And I think there was some political hunting down people, and that why probably many people fled to the US at this time.
50s, roughly 1 million Germans arrived in the United States, making the total number of German-born Americans by the 1860s around 1.3 million. In the 1870s, over 100,000 Germans from Russia found their way to America after the Tsarist government stripped away privileges that had been granted to German farmers in Russia hundreds of years prior. The next decade,
it's a crazy way to skip the whole of Europe and just go from Russia to the US.
Shine all the rest though, as around 1.5 million Germans came to the US just in the 1880s alone. This would be the peak though, as the number of German-born Americans dropped from 2.9 million to 2.3 million between 1890 and 1910. Immigration had gone down drastically, and in 1920, the number had fallen even further, now sitting at 1.7 million.
And I feel like I ask myself what maybe the consequences of the war, of the First World War, were that like maybe US didn't accept people. Is it that right? Or German people at least?
Even with the side effects of displacement caused by World War II, Americans born in Germany still only added up to 1.2 million after the start of the conflict. Germans would continue to immigrate over the following decades, as they still do today.
Yeah, I mean, the US were like one of the only safe havens for people, and especially probably Jews coming to the US, because you have like also a big, I think the US nowadays is like the second biggest Jewish community in the world after Israel.
But the number of them coming to America has nevertheless dropped remarkably. In 1990, only 58 million Americans claimed to be German or partially German, even though others could be linked to German ancestors.
Is it only?
But still, even if the number of Germans coming into America had already reached its high point, they have undoubtedly had a huge impact on the country. And it does seem that German remains the most dominant ethnic group in the country. The reasons for that...
But more than English, really? Or is he excluding English? And probably... yeah, or maybe there are more than English, I don't know.
Their migration are multiple. One reason that is often overlooked, though didn't account for the first wave of immigrants, was the stories told by Germans who had already made their new lives in America with great success. From Gottfried Duden's book to simple letter correspondence.
I'm wondering if he is the one who invented Duden, because in Germany, the Duden is like the major language dictionary for German language. So if you're searching for a word, you look in the Duden for grammar, spelling, or And I wonder if it's him. That would be really funny. The book about German language by a guy who went to the US.
Correspondence between German immigrants and those they knew back home.
Probably
people
not.
in
Maybe
Germany
just
begun to hear about the opportunities and freedoms that the colonies and later United States had to offer. Simple word of mouth is often all it takes, but still.
I guess they would probably have spoken German in that discussions.
There were many other factors that led to Germans crossing the ocean. For many, the feudal system back home left them yearning for more independence, as did other restrictions that had been placed on some.
But to be honest, at this point, there isn't much like a feudal system. got left behind after the medieval times. So, or is there not, is there another meaning for feudal system I'm thinking about? Yeah, I don't know. Let's continue.
Such as limits on marriages due to a
could have been like complete bullshit I just said.
Fear of overpopulation and a worsening economy. But the economy was already bad enough for numerous people. High taxes were a constant burden, and making a respectable living just seemed more likely in the New World, with news of lands being given to new
and there's like probably only coming like good news from the US. I think only the success stories are getting bored about, and you want to hear what you want to hear. I mean, you're looking for like a paradise where you can get rich, and I think for most people, or for majority of people, it didn't happen that way if they got there instantly.
Settlers and industrialization, later opening the door for more jobs outside of the typical farming. Furthermore, some communities in the German states were eager to get rid of the lower class anyway, and would even offer to cover the costs of the journey to America if the immigrants promised to never return home. Other German men left illegally due to military service requirements, while more fled famine and frequent wars. And of course, as demonstrated by many of the...
But I feel like there has to be like really some really good impression of, or good view about the US, because there's so many other countries you could go if you live in Europe, because it's all so close, and you'd go to the Balkan, or maybe to North Africa, or I don't know. But you choose to cross the whole of the Atlantic. It's got to say something.
The original immigrants to the New World, religious freedom was often an important motivator. At the time, many were essentially told what to believe in, Catholicism or Protestantism, for example, by each monarch. For those with strong alternative beliefs who were unwilling to comply, fleeing the country became a way for them to practice their faith in peace. Not only did the American colonies have freedom of religion, but as stated earlier, the founder of Pennsylvania himself had even invited these religious outcasts to settle in his colony. Of course, many reasons exist as to why people of any country...
And I feel like one point I just thought about is that the Germans really didn't have a lot of the time any colonies, and after I think the 90s, they started to get like a few in Tanzania and in Namibia, but other countries had like the colonies. So if you're not happy in the mainland, you could just go there and try your luck there, and be like the upper class in your colony rather than the low class in your homeland. But Germany didn't have like the colonies, and maybe that's like a reason they started to go to the US instead. Maybe, I don't know.
Immigrate to another, and this is far from an exhaustive list, though it is some of the main explanations that have been discovered. Without German immigrants, for example, Americans may not share the tradition of decorated Christmas trees, and the Brooklyn Bridge wouldn't have been built without a German immigrant engineer. Business owners, military generals, scientists. There are dozens upon dozens of names of German immigrants who took the journey across the Atlantic and changed the future of the colonies and the United States. Today, Germans still immigrate to the US on occasion, but more significantly is the lasting effects of those who had already come. 6 states are believed to have over 30% of their total population be made up by...
I knew about Wisconsin because I'm a Packers fan. I watch a lot of football, but I didn't know that like the Dakotas and Nebraska is German heritage. I know I thought like Texas would be heavy German, because I saw some YouTube video like 10 years back where like some old people in small towns spoke some ancient German accent, like from the 1800s, which descended from them coming there. But yeah, seemingly not that much if the map is right.
Full or partial German Americans. Another 7 have an at least 20% ethnic German population,
so
and of all 50 states, not a single one has a German population that makes up less than 4.5% of the state's entire population. Possibly one of the most impressive parts about this is that most immigrants from the German states have assimilated almost, if not entirely, into German American culture and identity, meaning that there really hasn't been an intentional preservation of German identity in America, though some German heritage societies and communities exist. For the most part, it's all thanks to the millions of people who braved the waters to start a new life in the United States that have made so much of America's roots German.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I learned quite a few things. I hope I had some not that confused thought about it. I knew about Pennsylvania and like the from Castle just because of my local history, and I knew about Wisconsin. I knew they like a lot of beer and sausage there and have like their own version of the Oktoberfest and stuff like that. But other than that, about the whole history and the reason, I didn't quite know. So I liked the video. Check it out. The link is down in the description. I haven't seen that channel, I think, but I like the style. Maybe we will see more from them. And if you like the video, I really would love if you give me a like and maybe think about subscribing. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope I see you at the next one.